Platform, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Platform, can you hear me?
All good, sir.
Recording in progress.
There will now be a moment of silent prayer and meditation. And as we do so, let's remember the families of those who were on the Indian flight this morning to London, their families, and those whose residences were affected by the crash. May we also remember the victims of the floods in our country, those who have lost their lives, and those whose residences were affected by the floods. May we be seated. Order, honorable members. Can we be seated? Honorable members, the only item on our order paper is questions addressed to the president, to the deputy president. Order, honorable members. Can we all take our seats? Madlandun, ndaba ezitha, angikwazi ukuyithethisa inkosi. Order, honorable members. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to Deputy President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which question their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Ngako-ke sibanikeze ithuba elanele ukwazisa amaphathi ukuthi azoyibuza kanjani imibuzo nezichibiyelo zabo. Sizamile ke ekwenzeni lokho ukuthi senze ngendlela enobulungiswa kuwo wonke umuntu. Uma ngabe ilunga elihloniphekile kumele lenze isichibiyelo ku virtual platform lingakwazi ukwenza lokho, lowo okuyena ongisosiswebhu walelo qembu uyawube esethatha lo mbuzo emele iqembu lakhe. Uma ke wonke okanye yonke imibuzo eyizichibiyelo ukulandela lo mbuzo obungohlonze kusekela mongameli siyobe sesidlulela embuzweni olandelayo. The first question has been asked by Honorable Mtuli. The question is about measures that the government has implemented or considered to assess the extent of which commercial banks can contribute towards growing the agricultural sector by adjusting their qualification criteria for smallholder farmers in rural and underdeveloped provinces. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, before I start answering the first question, let me also, on behalf of the government, join those who have extended condolences to the families of the people affected by disasters in the Eastern Cape. Our hearts are with you. Government will do everything in its power to assist you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that indulgence. The President will be visiting the Eastern Cape tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ntuli is correct that agriculture is one of the most important sectors of our economy. We need to support it to promote economic growth, ensure food security and employment creation, particularly in rural areas. Government is playing a crucial role in ensuring that small farmers become sustainable and thriving enterprises, aligned to the country's land reform and rural development objectives. Government also supports smallholder farmers in rural areas through the Agriculture Agro-Processing Master Plan, the AAMP. The master plan aims to enhance agricultural product, promote agro-processing, and enhance market access by creating capacity, accelerating land reform, and offering financial assistance to farmers. Through Triple Ps, we are enhancing collaboration between government and private entities to boost productivity, service delivery, and sustainability. Growth, infrastructure, and technology adoption depend on these collaborations. To this end, I had an opportunity to engage with the agricultural sector at the Nampo Harvest Day held at Nampo Park on the 15th of May this year in Bothaville in the Free State Province. During this visit, or that visit rather, we engaged with AfAgri, an important organization that protects and promotes the interests of the farming community in South Africa. AfAgri, through Lemang Agricultural Services, offer both farmers and corporates a variety of training and development choices. In essence, Lemang unlocks the potential of new era farmers and their land through training, mentorship, technical assistance, and exposure, increasing agricultural productivity and access to markets. We also witness the latest technologies and products and emphasize the government's commitment to agricultural role in job creation. Together with the private sector, we agreed that we must speed up support of new era farmers through support and mentorship programs, particularly in rural and underdeveloped areas. Honorable Speaker, furthermore, in order to address the challenges of access to funding by small-scale farmers, government is implementing support instruments to allow qualified potential producers to participate in the agricultural sector. These instruments are provided to eligible producers in the form of grants, loans, or a mix of both. This includes the Grant-Based Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, CASP, and the Loan and Grant-Based Blended Finance Scheme. The CASP is administered through provincial departments of agriculture, while the Blended Finance Scheme is managed in collaboration with financial institutions. Partnering financial institutions include the Land Bank, DBSA, ABSA, and Industrial Development Corporation, IDC. Honorable Speaker, through the Blended Finance Scheme, the Land Bank, DBSA, and the Department of Agriculture offer blended finance where grants are combined with loans to provide a more manageable financial package for emerging farmers, particularly targeting the majority Black-owned enterprises in the agricultural value chain. These interventions are implemented to ensure optimal participation of smallholder farmers, particularly from rural areas, and other producers in the agricultural sector, regardless of their scale of production. In this regard, several strides have been made towards improving access to funding and resource support for small-scale and smallholder farmers in terms of production support and market access. Honorable Speaker, we are also committed to leveraging trade agreements in agricultural products through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to boost intra-Africa trade, eliminate trade barriers, and promote regional value chains. If we effectively utilize regional structures like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, our smallholder farmers will have a platform to access larger regional markets and potentially benefit from increased demand for their products. In this regard, continuous industry consultation and reporting is taking place through the Agricultural Trade Forum. Similar arrangements are currently in place with the European Union and our BRICS partners. We will fast-track export protocols, enhance biosecurity to meet international standards, and ensure our international outreach is professional, responsive, and strategic. To this end, we have undertaken a working visit to Japan. Minister of Agriculture, Steinazen, was part of the delegation. Japan is one of the strategic economic partners and has already invested heavily in South African economy with potential for additional investments. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, we are actively seeking to expand agricultural market access to countries like Japan, particularly for our citrus fruits and avocados. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Nduli.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, honorable members and Deputy President. No, I just want to make a follow-up, and thanks a lot, Comrade Deputy President, for a very comprehensive answer in terms of what the state is doing. The follow-up I want to make is that if you look at the land within, let's say, Limpopo, KZN, and Eastern Cape, those three provinces, almost 1.8 hectares of that land is essentially, big part of it is under the traditional authorities of our country, located in those provinces. Now, commercial banks usually, and in many respects, are not very keen to support the small commercial farmers in those areas because they lack what is called collateral. What I want to ascertain, Committee Deputy President, is whether or not the government has thought about any measures, regulatory or otherwise, through which you can intervene to force the hand of the commercial financial sector in particular to make a meaningful contribution to the production that has to take place in those areas. More and above what, as we have indicated, is the work that is being done by the democratic state. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Ntuli, yes, we have considered a number of initiatives in this regard. Firstly, we believe as government is a number of funds that are in place are going to be able to assist. One of them is the Agri BEE fund that has been put in place. But also if you look at initiatives that are driven by the Land Bank together with the BSA, as I said earlier, working with the Department of Agriculture to ensure that there is access to blended finance. That in a way is a way in which we force commercial banks to come to the party. But you're quite right that there is a challenge in accessing funding by small holder farmers, particularly in rural areas from our commercial banks. And that's why the intervention has to be driven in the main by the state to ensure that we make these facilities available. The DFIs are being also mobilized to be able to assist in this regard. So we are convinced that these interventions that we are taking as government are going to assist to support smallholder farmers who are battling to get access to funding from commercial banks. So that's really what we are doing at the moment. And we do hope that in a sense, the intervention by government provide the necessary de-risking for the commercial banks to be able to have appetite to come on board. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ocampo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President. In order to get working capital,
No,
most
even for Zambia, I think it's gone now.
Honorable Zuma Sambudla, please mute. Order. Asingazilaleli indaba zabantu. Honorable Ocampo.
What did she say?
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in order to get working capital, most commercial farmers obtain loans from the banks, and they've got to give up their property as security for that. The banks require the registration of a bond over that property because that is the best form of security that the bank can get. The problem is that most smallholder farmers still do not own the land that they farm on, and they therefore cannot provide that land as security for the loans. It is therefore not any rigid qualification criteria of the commercial banks that are having the effect of being discriminatory and exclusionary. It is the fact that these farmers do not get the title deeds for their farms that they farm on that are discriminatory and exclusionary. Does the Deputy President trust these farmers to own their land? And if so, what steps will the Deputy President take to ensure that title deeds of land is transferred from the state to the people that farm on it, so that they can easily obtain loans for working
Thank you,
capital
Honorable
and to use
Ocampo.
their
Your
land
time
to do
is
so?
up. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Ocampo, indeed, we know that in most cases when you require funding, a commercial bank do need security. And you're quite right that some of our smallholder farmers still don't have title deeds to the land. And that's why one of the programs that we are busy with is exactly that, to ensure that most of those who have land transferred to them should also get title deeds to those pieces of land. So that program is on the table as we speak. So what we do between the Ministers of Agriculture and the Minister of Land Reform, we are collaborating to ensure that we address that. You may have noticed that the Minister of Land Reform has been going around releasing more land, but also dealing with this very issue of ensuring titles. There is a bit of a challenge though in rural areas because we also have to engage with the chiefs and the traditional leaders and so on. There's sometimes in some areas the traditional leaders will say, no, they must hold the title for everybody. And there is tension there, but we are busy dealing with that.
Honorable Nkutama.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Black African agricultural class was deliberately destroyed by the colonial and apartheid governments. This was done to force Africans to provide cheap labor for white-owned mining and agricultural sectors. The state destroyed the African producer class on the one hand, and on the other supported the development of white agriculture through land access and cheap credits. It was the state, not the private sector, which provided support to the Afrikaner farmers. We also must say, DP, make sure that you don't give loans to our people through a freehold title, because that is a trap to make sure that these banks will steal our land. The current farmer support programs do not target the more than 2 million small-scale Black farmers. What have you done to support the 2 million Black farmers?
Thank
Do you agree
you,
that
Honorable
the so-called
Nkutama. Your
government did
time
not
is up.
support these farmers?
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Nkutama. It is true that historically the regime removed our people from their land to make them provide cheap labor to the mines, etc. Our role as a new government is to return the land to the people and do it in such a way that, as you say, as we provide these loans, we do it in such a way that we protect them from the commercial banks so that we don't have a situation where they will lose their land again because of these loans. That's why most of the loans provided at the moment, in fact, is from the state. The land bank is fully involved there. We have brought in the other TFIs and so on, but we must also tap into these resources that are in commercial banks, but of course, providing support as a state for people not to be exploited. So we are doing exactly that. Those 2 million farmers you're talking about are being supported as we speak, because one of the challenges we realize is that it's okay to give people land, but you need to provide support beyond that for them to be able to till the land. And we are doing exactly that with the land bank and the other institutions as we speak. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Khadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, given the continued exclusion of smallholder farmers from accessing credit due to commercial banks' rigid lending criteria, has the government considered introducing something like a credit guarantee scheme or risk-sharing facility to incentivize commercial banks to lend to these farmers, particularly those operating in rural and underdeveloped provinces? If so, what progress has been made in that regard? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Khadebe. As I indicated earlier, that a number of initiatives are now in place by government, including what I referred to earlier as Agri-BEE Fund, and a lot of other initiatives through the blended finance schemes from these institutions I spoke about earlier, including the land bank and so on. We are tightening up that. In fact, the land bank has also introduced the disaster relief scheme, which is one of the things that affect most farmers. Almost about 1.8 billion rand that has been put in place. So there are a number of initiatives that were brought to bear to really support emerging farmers. As other members were saying that previously farmers were able to succeed because they had the backing of government. So it's important that government must do that. Let's not just leave it to commercial farmers. So those schemes are being put in place. Adequate funding is being put in place to ensure that our farmers can succeed. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. We now move to the second question. And the question has been asked by Honorable Peterson. It has been asked to the Deputy President about the comprehensive and evidence-based strategies that the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cabinet Committee has implemented to dismantle organized crime criminal networks and address the underlying socio-economic conditions that fuel gang recruitment, and how his office intends to strike a balance, hardline security measures with community-based interventions to rebuild public trust and ensure sustainable safety outcomes in affected areas. Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, the question raised by Honorable Peterson is important considering the high levels of gang-related violence in urban and peri-urban areas through the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security, that is JCPS, Cabinet Committee. We are coordinating efforts of various departments involved in justice, crime prevention, and security to employ a multifaceted approach to combat organized crime. As part of a comprehensive strategy, the SAPS has developed the National Anti-Gang Strategy to dismantle organized crime or organized criminal networks and address socio-economic conditions. This strategy, supported by the Anti-Gang Action Plan, focuses on gangsterism through intelligence gathering, proactive policing, community engagement, and stakeholder collaboration. In this regard,
Honorable Soju. Honorable Soju, can you please switch off your gadget? Thank you, Deputy President.
thank you. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, the South African Police Service is enhancing its anti-gang units to investigate and finalize gang-related cases, including drug trafficking, shootings, and murders as part of its effort to combat gang-related crime. Furthermore, SAPS, National Crime Combating Forum, has developed a new overarching crime combating strategy, Operation Chanela 2, for the period April 2025 to March 2029. Operation Chanela is actively shaping the landscape nationwide, and it has persisted throughout regions with concentrated strategic law enforcement efforts based on intelligence in particular. But between May and June of this year, more than 2,000 wanted suspects were apprehended for various crimes, including murder and business robberies. Honorable Speaker, as part of the integrated policing, Cabinet approved the National Policing Policy, the NPP, in May of this year. This policy aimed to strengthen police service delivery to communities by ensuring professionalism and efficiency in policing. The NPP is supported by the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy, which seeks to address crime and violence at its root cause. Integrated policing is indeed paying off. For example, in the Olerato Mongale case, SAPS mobilized a multidisciplinary team, which included crime intelligence, anti-kidnapping task team, and also the Durban Metro K9 unit. And together in those efforts, they were able to track down the suspect. So, Honorable Speaker, we are able to achieve a breakthrough working in this manner. Integrated policing involves a multifaceted approach to crime prevention and management, encompassing various stakeholders and strategies. The goal is to address crime effectively by integrating resources, sharing information, and working together with communities to develop and implement comprehensive crime prevention strategies. As a result, according to the latest statement released by SAPS, ongoing operations which are focusing on combating and preventing crime, including gender-based violence and femicide, have led to the arrest of more than 13,000 suspects. Honorable Speaker, as chair of the JCPS, I will continue engagements with Minister of Police, the Police Commissioner, and MECs of safety in all provinces to strengthen our efforts in dealing with organized crime and gang-related killings, especially in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, where this is rife. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate immediate threats posed by crime and gangs in identified high crime areas, while fostering safe and secure environment for long-term stability. As a result, our interventions are making significant progress in combating gang-related crime and other forms of criminality, with the last fourth quarter statistics showing significant decrease in most crime categories compared to the previous financial year. However, much more still needs to be done. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable J.S. Peterson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before I ask my question, can you please confirm if the Deputy President is able to locate where I am?
I can see you.
Well, Honorable Peterson, before I ask, he had already located you. So you can proceed with your supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, given the multidimensional nature of gang recruitment, which often stems from poverty, unemployment, and lack of education, can the Justice, Crime Prevention, and Security Cabinet Committee provide detailed evidence or case studies demonstrating the effectiveness of its socio-economic initiatives in addressing these root causes and how it assesses the long-term sustainability of these interventions in reducing gang-related violence? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Peterson, somebody was saying, please stand up. But I can see you nicely from here. Your question is very important because as we make efforts to fight crime, including violent crime, we do need to pay attention to socio-economic issues. It's important that government must do everything in its power to ensure that we grow the economy, an inclusive economy, provide jobs, particularly to young people or the youth, and we should then be able to take them away from the streets, because these gang-related violences, etc., feed on young people who are readily available in the streets. So if the economy grows and absorbs them, we're taking them away from the streets and therefore away from criminal activity. So the approach that we are taking, even with JCPS, is not a just purely policing issue. It's an approach that involves a number of departments. So if you look at how the JCPS Interministerial Committee operates, it brings together a number of other government departments, including the departments of Treasury, DTIC, education, and others, because it's an approach that must ensure that dealing with crime must not just be purely a policing matter, but must take into account how do we change the conditions of living of people, and by doing so, take away conditions that create an opportunity for criminal activity. So yes, we are doing that already, and we're going to continue to review and see if we need to strengthen additional interventions in that regard. But thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Matafa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, thank you for your responses, in which you outlined several commendable successes resulting from the JCPS strategic crime prevention initiatives in various provinces. However, in some areas, gang violence continues to escalate. Communities such as those in the Cape Flats are still experiencing record levels of gang-related murders, which suggest a troubling disconnect between policy implementation and on-the-ground outcomes. In light of this, how does the committee account for persistent difficulties in stabilizing high-risk areas like this, despite ongoing strategic interventions? On measurable outcomes, such as percentage reductions in gang-related crimes or successful identification of kingpins, what is the target that the JCPS Cabinet Committee aims to achieve over the next 12 months? Lastly, and most importantly, DP, how will your office ensure meaningful community participation
Thank
in
you,
both the
Honourable Member.
oversight
Your
and
time is
refinement
up.
of the strategy? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Mataf. One of the things I want to emphasize is the issue of a multidisciplinary approach. It's a very, very important approach to dealing with criminality. So what we're doing as JCPS is to ensure that all the relevant government departments come up with their plans, their ideas to assist us to be more effective in this regard. And we're going to continue to review and assess the plans that have been put in place, whether it's Operation Shanyela and other operations that the police have put in place. We're going to review them to see how they fit in and strengthen this multidisciplinary approach. It's a very important way in which we think we will be effective in dealing with crime, including violent crime, gangs, people who are involved in drug trafficking and in our communities, and also making sure that our communities are safe from criminals. So multidisciplinary approach is key, and that's what we support as JCPS. And we're quite happy when we see it is gelling with all the various state organs that are involved in this regard. From national, working with provincial governments and local authorities as well. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the issue that Honorable Matafa has raised of communities is very important. One of the successes in dealing with crime over the years that we have observed is when you involve communities effectively. You know, I know that when we were still young in the youth movement in the township, you know, we initiated street committees and things like those, which the previous regime did not like or support. They arrested many. I'm sure in this house there are many of you who, you know, got arrested because you're involved in these organs of people's power. But that's the way to combat crime. Bring in the communities. So I agree with you, Honorable Mataf. Bring in communities, let them work with the police and other state organs to deal with crime. Once there's a buy-in from the community, there's no way you are going to be defeated by crime. That kind of unity of the community and government and the police, that's the recipe for success. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable O.M. Maudre. The question will be taken by Honorable Mente.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy President, the approach of multidisciplinary community approach is not going to be enough because crime-infested areas are rural townships, yet the concentration of monitoring equipment such as CCTVs and patrols are in urban areas. Hence, in the Cape Flats, there has never been arrest of kingpins or detection of the break of gangster fight. Yet people die in the crossfire is because there are no monitoring cameras in such areas. Now the question is, how are you going to make sure that areas such as townships and rural areas do have the monitoring resource like equipment of CCTVs, the frequent patrols, as well as satellite police stations? Because these gang fights are not
Honourable
only
Member,
as gang fights, but old people
time
now
is
are
up.
also being killed for being old.
Deputy
Thank you very
President.
much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Met. You're quite right. The facilities of that nature, like cameras and so on, are very useful. And you are quite right that you often find them in cities, towns, and sometimes suburbs. I know when this approach was started particularly in the city of Johannesburg by Mayor Masondo, it was concentrated in the city. They later tried to extend it to other areas, but it has not effectively, as you say, reached the heart of the townships and those other areas. It's often really managed by municipalities, or let me say cities and towns. It's something that we can look at as national government and see how we can assist them, because I'm sure it's going to boil down to budget. But it's something that we need to look at, because in addition to the multidisciplinary approach we are talking about, if we add that, then we will get somewhere. I know that let me tell you a little story. So I went to one of the cities in China. I think it was Shenzhen. And they were showing us how they deal with the problem of crime. And they have a company called Huawei. I think it's also in South Africa. It was doing that work for them. So they showed me this. And when I visited their head office, they said, you see, we can see you as you get out of the airport. We can see you. We can see you as you travel in the streets. Because what they do, they put these cameras in the freeways as well. So it can pick you up. You pass maybe 100 meters, another camera pick you until whether you get to a hotel and so on. South Africa is trying that, but I think we need to look at it again. On our freeways, now there are cameras, as we have seen recently when the police were looking at the problem of the police who disappeared. They could pick their cars from a camera on the freeway by Sanral. But I agree with you that we probably need to look at what can we do to extend to the areas where we have not reached. Because you're quite right, the criminality is not just on the freeways. So we need to see if we can be able to extend these resources into those other communities. But as I said earlier, Honorable Speaker, it will at some point boil down to how do we deal with issues of costs, because these things comes with costs. But if you say, is it something that is worth doing? Yes, indeed. Everything must be done to fight crime. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Deputy Honorable Speaker, it's Member Wayne Thring here. Will be replacing and taking the question. And apologies for any background noise because I'm still in transit. Honorable Deputy President, there are few who have grown up in townships, in particular, who are untouched by the scourge of drugs and gangsterism. My family knows this only too well when we lost a family member to this scourge a few years ago. Mr. Deputy President, in cities like Medellin in South America and Denmark's gang exit program, the focus is on individualized support, employment, assistance, relocation, education, vocational training, as well as social reintegration, which have helped former gang members and leaders to leave the criminal networks and to transition into legitimate employment. Now, Mr. Deputy President, does the integrated police strategy that you mentioned include these international best practices, encouraging gang members and leaders to transition to law-abiding citizens, thereby reducing gang recruitment? If so, how? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you. I can see a number of members are trying to look at the building behind you to see where are you in transition, locally or internationally? Well, you will tell us when you come back. Deputy President, order.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Winfred. Indeed, this is something we are also engaging on in the country, because fighting crime doesn't mean, as I said earlier, just hardcore policing. We need to look at other interventions. So the issue of rehabilitating people, gangs, former gangs, into communities, into employment initiatives, etc., is something that is quite positive, that we are also, as JCPS, looking at, and not just former gangs. Generally, a lot of young people, some have been in conflict with the law, some have served and they are back in communities. We need to help them. In fact, I have seen stories on how young people have come on TV and say, look, I used to be involved in crime, but now I'm involved in these projects and so on. And government is supporting that. So I agree with the honorable member that those best practices from other countries, it's something that we are pulling together ourselves in South Africa. We are looking at those best practices and ensuring that we can also go the same route to help our situation in the country, particularly to absorb these young people away from conditions that get them prone to criminal activity. So yes, we are looking into that, and we will review, and I'm sure next time we'll be able to inform the member how much progress we're making in that regard. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. We now move to question 9, which is question number 3 in our order paper. And it's a question asked by Honorable L.J. Passon to the Deputy President about whether the Deputy President, as the chair of the Water Task Team, has spearheaded specific interventions to hold municipalities and provinces accountable for inadequate water supply to their communities, and ensure that the Department of Water and Sanitation effectively utilizes its resources to address water shortages across the Republic. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Water Task Team is working with municipalities to deal with the water challenges. In addition, the Water Task Team has also looked at the state of water supply in the 105 non-performing municipalities, where these municipalities are unable to deliver on their mandate for this service. In terms of this, the Department of Water and Sanitation has submitted short, medium, and long-term solutions to turn around the declining water services to these struggling municipalities. The Water Task Team's recent meeting emphasized the need to enhance municipal service management and financial stability in the water sector by ring-fencing revenue from water sales and separating water services authorities from providers through Operation Vulindlela reforms, aiming to accelerate governance and infrastructure improvements. The Department of Water and Sanitation, led by Honorable Majodina, has also significantly strengthened its controls to ensure that funding is allocated to projects that add maximum value to address water services needs. For large projects for strategic nature, the department has established oversight structures in the form of project steering committees and technical steering committees that comprise of all stakeholders to monitor projects and to collectively address and resolve project blockages. In addition, the Department of Water and Sanitation has established a specialized unit with engineers who closely monitor and oversee implementation of priority and large intervention projects. These are projects that are identified by the department as requiring more stringent oversight based on impact, risk, and past delays. To this end, the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation has recommended that the Department of Water and Sanitation, National Treasury, SALGA, and COGTA should collaboratively develop a comprehensive water debt management plan. This plan will implement strategies.
Order, honorable member, can you please switch off? Next time you must please name your gadget. We don't know who F is. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was saying this plan will implement strategies like, for instance, top slicing, the equitable share, and the municipal infrastructure grants to address rising municipal water debt. National Treasury is also considering invoking Section 216 of the Constitution against defaulting municipalities, meaning their upcoming equitable share payments will be withheld while repayment agreements are negotiated with the relevant water boards. In addition to this mechanism, the Department of Water and Sanitation can withhold or stop grant funding where there is poor performance by municipalities that are implementing agents in line with Section 17 of the Division of Revenue Act, DORA. In cases of continuous under-expenditure, funding is reallocated to other struggling municipalities according to Section 18 and 19 of DORA. By the end of the municipal financial year, municipalities are required to have spent the allocated funding, and any unspent funds are then returned to the National Revenue Fund. Honorable Speaker, we are not only addressing water-related service delivery challenges at local government level. Last week, we launched a new initiative called Clean Cities and Towns Campaign, which we launched in Kliptown in Soweto. This campaign is also aimed at assisting us to accelerate service delivery. We will be expanding this campaign to all provinces in the country. Through collaboration with various sectors of society and all levels of government, we will effectively tackle issues unique to cities and towns, including the provision of clean drinkable water, electricity, connectivity, and so on. And those are things that will help us also to ensure that we help municipalities to perform their functions. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Person.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, given your response, have you considered implementing consequence management measures for municipal managers and mayors of water service authorities who repeatedly fail to meet minimum water delivery standards by holding them personally accountable for these failures? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Person. Consequence management is key to ensure that people do their work. Obviously, as I said earlier, that most of our water authorities are municipalities, and we also have water boards that are accountable to the Department of Water and Sanitation. And yes, indeed, we are looking at the performance of managers at those institutions. We have not, of course, I'm not aware that we have moved to an extent where we want to personally hold people personally liable, but obviously accountability means that there will be consequences to individuals who don't perform. And we will look at the extent in which we can strengthen those measures. You know, many of the municipal managers and people managing these water authorities, the boards, are continuously being assessed for performance. And those who are not doing their work, there's always consequences indeed, but it will differ from municipality to municipality. I'm sure it's something the water task team in discussion with the minister can look at to ensure that people do perform. As individuals who are appointed, they do their work. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Z.L. Mkhize.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, thank you for the elaborate response. The challenges in the supply of water are widespread and are linked to overall dysfunctionality and service delivery lapses in municipalities, informed by, amongst other things, the issue of revenue generation, poor revenue generation. Therefore, the real challenge in the sustainability of water provision and wastewater treatment is complicated by the huge debts owed to water boards by municipalities and other debts, and then the resource constraints which are suffered by municipalities that further exacerbate the water challenges. The question is, in your assessment, the interventions that are in place that we've just described, how effective are these? And if they are, you could then give us an example on how you have seen in your assessment the success of these. Secondly, considering that most municipalities are plagued by these challenges linked to poor revenue generation, provision of technical expertise for the effective planning and maintenance of infrastructure, what plans are in place to ensure sustainability in the provision of adequate safe water for communities and the prevention of widespread pollution?
Honorable Member, your
that
time is
happened
up.
in the Val River system in Mfuleni. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Kabazela. Indeed, it is true that many of our municipalities have very poor revenue generation mechanisms. They don't have mechanisms that are effective, and as a result, that results with poor revenue generation. Most of these issues, Kabazela, were addressed at the recent Water Indaba that was held recently. We are going to carefully look at the resolutions of the Water Indaba because it addresses particularly these issues. Because some of the municipalities don't really have capacity to be water authorities. And that's why we believe that some of these, the water services should actually be directly managed by national government through the Department of Water and Sanitation. But we don't want to take all these functions away from municipalities because they obviously, if they work well and generate revenue, it helps them to deal with other municipal functions. So we are going to look at how we can, where possible, assist them to be effective in generating revenue. We have realized that poor maintenance of facilities is one of the biggest problems. If you go to many of our cities, you'll find that there are problems of leakages, non-revenue water is a big problem. So we're going to work with them to try and deal with those challenges. Because some of the municipalities or cities, you'll find that non-revenue water is almost close to 50%, if not more. And so they can't be effective in generating revenue when already, before you even pump water to consumers, whether it's communities or business, you have already lost half of your revenue. But this is a key matter that is contained in the water, the resolutions of the water indaba, and we are carefully looking at them with the minister, engaging all these municipalities to address particularly this problem, because that's where the biggest problem is in municipalities, is that water is actually lost. The Minister of Water and Sanitation said something very interesting when we were discussing recently. Says she has seen water walking in the streets. So we need to stop water walking in the streets. The water must go to the people through proper facilities, proper pipes, and not be lost and walk in the streets. But thank you very much, Kabazela, for the question. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you. Deputy Madam Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, how is the water task team working to support traditional and rural communities, particularly in historically neglected areas where water infrastructure is either non-existent or severely dilapidated? Furthermore, what measurable outcomes or timelines has the task team committed to in these communities to ensure equitable access to clean water? Thank you.
The Deputy President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Hadebe. You're quite right. When we have this discussion at the water indaba, one of the biggest question was the time frame. What is the turnaround strategy? If you listen to the Minister of Water and Sanitation, they are very tight time frame of ensuring that we turn around the situation. Some of the goals that we want to achieve should happen in the course of this year, because we're losing a lot of water. Municipalities are losing revenue. So we've put very tight time frame to ensure the turnaround on this problem. Of course, I don't have all of them with me, those deadlines, but they are there in the report. We're going to monitor them to ensure that where we need to fix the leaks, where we need to repair infrastructure is done timelessly. In fact, in some of the cities, you find that pipes have not been repaired or revamped for the last 40 years. It's a big problem. And at the indaba, we focused on that to say, let's ensure timers intervention with respect to repairs, but also ensure continuous maintenance. I'm happy that in areas like Gauteng recently, I saw the Rand Water Board doing a very aggressive maintenance. Recently as well, the maintenance was done on the Lesotho the channel, and the minister briefed me that it is now completed and the water is once again flowing. But maintenance must be continuous. We must not leave it for years and then come back when there's already a problem. And that's the approach we're now taking. Thank you, Honorable Khadeb. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Shlazu Webster.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, we have seen this movie before. We saw this movie with load shedding, and it was a result of infrastructure that was not maintained. It was a result of corruption that went unchecked. And we don't want to be in a situation where we are repeating that same movie. And so the question to you, Deputy President, is, given your role as chairperson of the Water Task Team, have you put in any interventions to make sure that major metros that are economic hubs, that are tourist nodes, are not interrupted and are protected from the water crisis that we have, given the impact of that on our economy specifically? And then the second question is around water shedding schedules. To say that, are you willing to commit to the publishing of water shedding schedules so that you have a responsiveness and you have contingency plans that are in place? Not
Thank
only
you, Honourable Member.
for the
Your
market,
time
but
has
also
expired.
Essential services. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Shlazu Webster. We actually support that the schedules should be published all the time. I know that in some of the areas it is happening. When there's going to be maintenance, residents are informed that from this time and this time, there won't be a supply of water because there are repairs taking place. In cities like Johannesburg, for instance, that happens quite a lot, but it should happen in all cities. Residents must not wake up and then there's no water. They must be told if there are going to be repairs so that they can prepare themselves. So we will check that. It has to be a norm that it happens in all the cities. The cities, as you say, must be protected, yes, because we know that when it comes to water, there are also some mafias there. They are called water tankers. So we are working closely now with the other government departments like the police to ensure that we deal with that problem, so that cities must be protected from corruption. Because remember, the water mafias have their people also in the cities who help them to disrupt facilities. Because once facilities are disrupted, what does the municipality do? It has to go to the water tankers. So you are quite right by saying, can we protect our cities? Definitely. That's what we must do to ensure that the mafias, the water, because remember, water tankers started as an innocent thing that when there are repairs and challenges, the city will then bring water through tankers. But then, it, in a sense, it was captured by the criminal element. And they actually deliberately sabotage facilities so that the municipality has no option but to come to them to supply water. So we are attending to that. But I agree with you that schedules must be in all cities because there'll always be repairs. In fact, one of the institutions that does this effectively is actually ESCOM. I've noticed that with ESCOM, whenever there's any repairs they do, you will get the message that, you know, tomorrow from this time to this time, there won't be electricity, we are repairing and so on. So we are going to ensure that the municipalities and particularly water authorities do that as well. Proper scheduling, residents must be informed. Thank you, Honorable Member. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question 10 has been asked by the Honourable P.A. van Staden. The question is whether the government's criticism of the US President's decision to stop funding for HIV AIDS relief through USAID and PEPFAR has put South Africa in a position where it will be unable to continue with the combating of HIV AIDS, resulting in a significant negative impact on public health. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I was a bit puzzled by the criticism. I was trying to remember who was criticizing him. But let's leave that and go straight to the consequence of this new development. Now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, the withdrawal of PEPFAR fund and of course other funds by the US administration will definitely deprive South Africa an amount of about 8 billion rands per annum. Maybe let me just explain briefly the resources we spend on programs like HIV AIDS as accounts about 6 billion rand or close to that, 60 billion rand, sorry. And 8 billion comes from this PEPFAR funding and the Global Fund. These funds, Honorable Deputy Speaker, are critical to support people suffering from HIV AIDS, STIs, TB, and other such illnesses, particularly in rural areas and poor communities. But let me assure you, Honorable van Staden, that our government has started drawing from its own capacity to fund HIV AIDS programs, especially after the withdrawal of PEPFAR funding by the United States government. When I spoke to the Minister of Health the last time, I think the amount that we spent currently is close to 52 billion rands per annum. It means with the withdrawal of funding by the US government, will then need to increase that funding by the amount that we have lost. The Minister of Health has on a number of occasions indicated that the withdrawal of PEPFAR funding at the moment will not have dire consequences for purchasing of antiretrovirals, for instance, because these were already budgeted for in the next year or two. So what government has started doing now is to develop contingency plans to address the gaps that will come with as a result of losing this funding for us to deliver health services. Through SANAC, we are engaging with the Minister of Finance to discuss the possibility of how we will fund these gaps. The South African government is intensifying efforts in the HIV/AIDS response, providing HIV/AIDS prevention, treatment to TB, STIs, and other services across the public health facilities in the country. For instance, under the auspices of SANAC, the Minister of Health has now launched the 1.1 million Close the Gap campaign, as we call it, and this was done in February of this year. This campaign seeks to initiate 1.1 million people on antiretroviral treatment by the end of this year, in an effort to help the country attain the UNAIDS 95 targets. It aims to do so by complementing and leveraging other SANAC campaigns such as Better Men for Tomorrow Men's Campaign, Zikhala Kanjani, National Youth HIV Prevention Campaign, as well as End TB campaign. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we continue to work with various partners in coordinating and implementing these campaigns. At the present moment, the PEFA colleagues or people who were getting remunerated through this funding are paid through the Center for Disease Control in the country. Last month, I reassured this House that as government, we are taking the necessary measures to prevent the negative effects that could result or that has resulted through the withdrawal of PEFA support. In this regard, SANAC is finalizing a country sustainability framework to ensure sustainability of these programs. On top of our priorities to ensure that all South Africans on antiretrovirals continue to have access to these life-saving drugs. Similarly, those who still need to be initiated on treatment must be initiated as per our plans. We will continue in our efforts to ensure that this objective is realized. Let me, in conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker, also indicate that we have started looking at other markets as well in order to deal with this challenge. When I was visiting France recently, I was with the Minister of Health, and he had an opportunity to engage with other players who are willing to come on board to close the gap in what we would have lost through the cutting of funding by the US administration. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable van Staden.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, deflection will not come to your aid in this situation. And the fact of the matter is that Africans are suffering due to the government's blunders. My question, however, is how will the Department of Health and government continue with the compensation of 8,000 healthcare workers in the HIV AIDS sector, the appointment of doctors and nurses at public hospitals, the procurement of beds, medical equipment, the refurbishment and upgrade of hospitals, and the funding for the building of 9 new central hospitals, as announced by the Minister of Health on SABC television during the G20 summit in Johannesburg in April of this year. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable van Staden, you said something like people are suffering because of government blunders. I don't know what you're talking about. What blunders are those? I want to answer you, but you puzzle me. Because you start with the accusation. So I'm not sure how to answer somebody who start by accusing me of blunders. What blunders are these? You don't know. Angazi ngimphendule kanjani ngoba uthi siya blunder. Okay, Honorable Speaker, now that Honorable van Staden does not know what he's talking about.
Point of order, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, please take your seat. Honourable Denner, what is your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, I apologize for the interruption, but we see that the Deputy President is doing his best not to answer the question. And we are here to get answers from him. So can he please answer the question from the member? The real question, not the deflection. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable member, that is not a point of order. The Deputy President is still busy with his answer. Please proceed. Honourable Dlakudi, do you have a point of order? Deputy President, please remain seated.
Indeed, the DP want to respond to the question, but if he asks for a clarity with regard to the question, the person who asked the question must clarify his or her question so that he can be able to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Dlakudi. I will leave it to the Deputy President to indicate whether he wants Honourable van Staden to reply or indicate what he actually meant with the first comment. Deputy President.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I think we should proceed because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't clarify what he means that people are suffering because of government blunders. So how do I answer him? I want to be clear. What are you talking about? Now that you don't know, I think we should proceed.
Order, honourable members. Deputy President, please proceed with your answer.
Yes, I think I've already answered what we are doing with respect to HIV AIDS program. Maybe what I should emphasize, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is that as South Africa, we should do everything in our powers to be self-sufficient in dealing with these programs. I did say that there will definitely be gaps by losing this funding from the US administration, but we are now looking at our own resources. We are engaging other markets. It may be possible even to get drugs from other destinations that are affordable. So all those issues we are looking at. We are government at work. We are focused. We are going to make sure that South Africans are not going to suffer because the US administration is cutting funding to us. We are going to make sure that we do resource our programs sufficiently. That we are going to do. Thank you very much.
Second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, given that the National Lottery Commission has already submitted a proposed funding application to make up the funding lost by PEPFAR entitled Close the Gap, and you have answered part of my question because I wanted to know what the progress is of that process, and you said around September. But we are gravely concerned, though, that the NLC continues to be under an ever-broadening probe by the Special Investigation Unit. And we need to know how dependent our AIDS responses to rescue by the lottery, and what will we do if this rescue does not materialize? Thank you very much.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Clerk. Yes, if the funding comes through from the lottery, it will be much relief for what we are doing. However, we're not going to completely rely on that. We will look at other initiatives, including what I said earlier, that we are talking to the Minister of Finance to see if from the fiscus we can be able also to get support. Whilst there may be challenges with the lottery, let's look at other avenues to be able to plug these gaps. But as I said earlier, also, it's not just funding we're looking at. It may be the ability to get affordable drugs in other destinations that will be approved by the regulatory authorities in the country. Yeah, so Honorable Clerk, yeah, we're looking at other initiatives, but the funding from the Lotto, if it comes through, it will provide much needed relief. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Douglas.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, what are the cost benefits and sovereign risks of relying on politically conditional aid like PEPFAR and US aid, especially when it is clear that foreign policy blackmail is being used by Western interests, often at the behest of local proxies like the DA, AfriForum, Solidariteit, and billionaire lobbyists like Johan Rupert to delegitimize our democratic land reform, our ICJ application against Israel, and our broader struggle against apartheid-era economic injustice? What are the reasons why the GNU is not strategically pivoting towards BRICS healthcare partnerships to safeguard our HIV AIDS response from future sabotage, especially considering the GNU's austerity measures and budget cuts? If not, why not? And if so, what are the details? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Douglas. We are doing exactly that. We have decided that we're not going to rely on the US administration for our work. We are engaging other partners. We are engaging our partners in BRICS, and we are looking at how we can, together with our partners in BRICS, be able to be self-reliant without relying on the West. We've learned lessons. Somebody's pleased about what I said. Said finally. You know, it's important, in fact, not only for South Africa, for the continent. You know, the continent of Africa is such a resourceful continent with a lot of minerals and a lot of wealthy. So we've got a very wealthy continent that has been relying on other people. We are stopping that now. We're going to use our own resources, our own minerals to fund our own programs. We're going to work with our partners in BRICS and ensure that together we're able to do the kind of things that we need to do. We can do it. It just needs a will to be able to do this. And the fact that we are put in this problem where, you know, we have to do things because we need resources from other people, we're not going to do it. We are very focused now. We're going to ensure that we work with our BRICS partners. Yeah, I'm not saying we'll abandon the US. They remain one of our biggest trading partners, but we must not go cap in hand to anyone. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mashlatsi. The Honorable Mashlatsi.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, the Deputy Speaker. Also, Deputy President, I think you have answered part of my question, but the question here is, has the government explored or initiated strategy engagement with multilateral platforms such as the African Union, BRICS, and others to develop a more diversified and politically neutral funding model for South Africa's HIV response to avoid future vulnerability to shifting geopolitical agendas? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Mahlatsi Khotso Morenak, Khotso Moafrika. Re etsa jwalo, we are already discussing not only in BRICS, but also in SADC and in the African Union. We are discussing these matters of self-reliance on how we're going to ensure that we use our own resources to build our economies, to ensure that we make our resources work for our people. So, ke ntho re etsang eo morenaka re se re qadile. Re etsa jwalo ke a leboha o kgotsofetse hore nkare potso yona ke se ke arabile gore re qadile re etsa mosebetsi ona as the continent to ensure that we can build our own economies with our own resources and address these challenges that our people are facing. Se ke lebohile morenaka. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Question number 11 has been asked by the Honorable S.E. Lucas. The question is what performance targets the Deputy President in his capacity as Chairperson of the Interministerial Committee on Agriculture and Land Reform has set to achieve land reform and agriculture development since the formation of the Government of National Unity, and what integrated approach is being developed by the Interministerial Committee to support infrastructure development in rural areas that support the growth of the agricultural sector. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The government is accelerating land reform program through the Interministerial Committee on Agriculture and Land Reform to increase or improve agricultural production, ensure food security, and expedite land redistribution, aiming at tackling inequality, poverty, and unemployment through increased agricultural output and economic participation. To this end, the Department of Land Reform and Department of Agriculture, working together, have allocated more than 500 million rand for 2025-26 financial year to acquire land and allocate 44,000 hectares of land for redistribution and security of tenure programs. Land redistribution efforts will concentrate on rural and urban areas with high levels of landlessness and poverty. Furthermore, for the 2025-26 financial year, the Commission on Restitution of Land Rights aims to settle more than 280 claims. Through programs like the Backlog Reduction Strategy, government is focusing on expediting the resolution of outstanding land claims, particularly all order claims. This strategy aims to improve policies, standard operating procedures, and increase funding to reduce settlement times. Additionally, it involves enhancing turnaround times, streamlining processes, and implementing efficient systems, ultimately improving service delivery. Pardon me. Sorry for that. Ultimately improving service delivery to claimants. Honorable Deputy Speaker, infrastructure development is a crucial component of our comprehensive land reform strategy, especially in rural areas, as it fosters land redistribution and agricultural support initiatives, laying the groundwork for economic and social development. Government is implementing infrastructure development programs, particularly in rural areas, focusing on key sectors like energy, water, transport, digital infrastructure, human settlements, with specific emphasis on agricultural development. These also include programs like expanded public works. There were leases where rural bridges program spearheaded by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and also the South African National Defence Force. Over the medium term, government will continue focusing on improving agricultural production and revitalizing infrastructure, accelerating the reform, finalizing land restitution claims, and increasing research and development capacity to increase and improve agricultural outputs. I thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Lucas.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. And just for the record, I'm Honorable Isaacs. Just that it is the documents went out before my surname change. Thank you. Deputy President, they have responded, Honorable Deputy Speaker, in a way on particularly the issues of infrastructure and the breach of the digital divide. That is an issue. But Deputy Speaker, you must acknowledge, and that is in the report that we just got 2 weeks ago, that for the past decade, there have been successive budget cuts, particularly on land reform and other issues. Now, in the light of that, how do we plan on accelerating the land acquisition and the post-settlement support process that is being undermined by this budget cut? And it's also undermining our transformation agenda. As the chair of the Interministerial Committee, how will you ensure that resources are directed to this very important program? Since we increasingly found that through the lack of support, many of the emerging farmers are selling land back to the original owners of this land, owners that have been appointed to be mentors of this emerging farmers. But unfortunately, because of the realities that they are experiencing through this budget cuts, unfortunately, they are reverting back to the original owners. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Isaacs. Yes, Honorable Isaacs. I'm not sure why they are doing that. They seem to be congratulating you for something. I can only assume that you are happily married. Honorable Isaac, you're quite right that the challenge of our land reform program has always been post-settlement support. In the previous years, we started giving people land and so on, and you're quite right. Once people don't have enough resources to till the land, they sell it back to the people who previously owned the land. So post-settlement support is critical in ensuring success in our land reform program. You did indicate that in the recent years, funding has been declining. We have been engaging now with the National Treasury, and in fact, more resources are going to be made available. I'm informed about 3.7 billion rand has already been approved because we need to support people who receive land so that they put the land to productive use. So I thank you for that question because it's a very important intervention to ensure that people who receive land are able to use the land productively in terms of farming and other initiatives that they can come up with. And I can show you that we are already now doing that to ensure that there's adequate support for people who have to till the land. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Matiase.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'll be taking the question on behalf of the Honorable Matiase. And greetings to the constitutionally and democratically elected Deputy President of South Africa, the incorruptible, unimpeachable Paul Mashatri. Given the performance targets and integrated approaches you have outlined, what concrete progress has been made to date to acquiring, allocating, and supporting land back for Black farmers, particularly in historically disadvantaged rural areas? And how is the progress being monitored and reported to ensure transparency and accountability? Furthermore, how significant is land redistribution in the transformation of the agricultural landscape in this country? And to what extent are you, as the chair of the interministerial committee, willing to go to protect and defend land reform as a critical transformation tool to redress the imbalances of the past? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Tambo. I always like making this point or this assertion that the struggle in South Africa by the liberation movement has always been the struggle for land. When all is said and done, whether you go to beyond 1652 or when, but I know that the liberation movement have attached a lot of significance to the issue of land. So we take this very seriously, that we must ensure that our land reform programs succeed. You are quite right that we have to focus in rural areas where people don't have resources, don't have facilities, have been neglected. You know, we talked about this earlier, that people don't even have titles to the land. So those are the things we must deal with. So you are quite right that the issue of transformation in the country will not mean anything if it doesn't deal with the issue of land. So it's important that we do that. Well, for my sins, the president has appointed me to deal with this matter. So I'm right there. I'm right there. I'm going to make sure that, you know, the president like referring to this matter, and maybe I can share this with you. The president referred to this as the original sin, the land that was taken away from our people. We're going to bring it back. We have to bring it back. So in conclusion, Deputy Speaker, we must say land reform must not be seen just as a program. It's a transformation initiative in the country. Maybe Honorable Tamba must say it's a radical transformation initiative. I think you'll like that one. Radical. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Smith.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy President, in terms of the Constitution, Section 25, subsection 6, a community whose tenure of land is legally insecure because of racially discriminatory practices are entitled to tenure or comparable redress. Considering the volume of high-value arable land in traditionally governed areas in the Eastern Cape, KZN and Limpopo, will you ensure that land reform is prioritized and title deeds are handed over to upcoming farmers in those areas previously known as Bantustans, to ensure that productive use of this high-value agricultural land takes place, as well as to preserve this land as it is a scarce and valuable resource that is being turned into residential areas as we speak. Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. And yes, Honourable Member, we are prioritizing titles to people in the rural areas, particularly emerging farmers. I work on the assumption that the other farmers have them already, the title deeds. So I'm focusing on emerging farmers, that they must have titles to the land. But when you deal with rural areas, it's not just farmers. So I think what we should say is that we must do everything to improve the lives of people in rural communities, not just farmers, including farm workers. You know, one of the biggest debates recently that South Africa has been facing from other people is also the issue of security in farms. And when you deal with that issue, you must deal with it for everybody. Farmers, farm workers, and everybody in those areas. So I agree with you that, in fact, all the things you are saying that should be happening in rural areas, that's exactly what we are doing. We must not forget rural areas, including issues of digitization, communication. We must make sure that people in rural areas have access to communication, to mobile phones, to clinics, to police stations, to all facilities. We will not succeed to make South Africa, you know, a beautiful, transformed country if we forget the rural areas. So we must focus there, and I thank you for raising this question. In a way, you were also making suggestions that these things should be done. And I thank you for that. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Trollip.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I noticed that you've avoided part A of the question because your government's not good at setting performance targets. I understand that. But when it comes to part B, Wandile Sihlobo in his book, A Country of Two Agricultures, wrote the following. As far as emerging commercial farmers and agricultural transformation is concerned, government intervention have only created more dependency as they have not built proper institutional frameworks and infrastructure essential for growing the agricultural sector. What are you going to do to remedy this?
The Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Trollip. Yes, the approach we're taking now is to avoid dependency, but rather ensure empowerment. We must empower people to be able to do things for themselves by making resources available. And it's not just funding, it's also expertise, training of people, particularly those who want to farm. And those are the initiatives that we are looking at. I was very excited when I went to NAMPO this year to see what is possible to assist rural communities and farmers. Training that they showed me there, even before someone gets funding, they show them how to be able to use these resources properly. New technologies that are now being introduced. So what we're going to do is to ensure that we avoid, as you say, the problem of the past of dependence, where we empower people to be able to do work themselves. Honorable Trolip, one of the interesting things that is emerging in South Africa is partnership between some of the people who have expertise in farming and the emerging ones. I've seen that in the Free State, in Mpumalanga, when I visited the areas, and in KZN. It's emerging everywhere where people are coming together, emerging farmers and farmers who have been there, and they partner. And that has helped a lot of emerging farmers to move into big commercial farms. So I agree with you that our approach should not create dependency, but rather empowerment of people. And that's what we're going to do. Thank you very much, Honorable Trolip. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, the last question has been asked by the Leader of the Opposition. The question is about whether the Deputy President has found the outcome of the recent police disciplinary inquiry that found 8 members of his VIP protection unit not guilty of assaulting a man on the N1 highway morally correct, and whether he has attempted to schedule a meeting with the victim of the assault to hear his side of the story and apologize to him. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I've always affirmed my confidence in the independence and impartiality of our law enforcement agencies and the judicial system as a whole. I have also vehemently condemned any interference with legal, including disciplinary processes, and emphasized the importance of maintaining the rule of law, regardless of whether it is advantageous to us or not. Let me emphasize that the Office of the National Commissioner of Police was responsible for the disciplinary process of the 8 members of the Presidential Protection Services that we're talking about. I was personally not involved in these procedures at any point. In addition, I've never attempted to arrange a meeting with the complainant so that we allow the justice process to take place without interference. I wanted Honorable Trope to know, but he's not here, but maybe he can hear wherever he is. We all know very well that our jurisprudence allows for both sides of the story to be heard. In this regard, I welcome the outcome of the police disciplinary inquiry that has acquitted the 8 members of the Presidential Protection Services. As I said, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I have not met with the victim because the matter is also sub judice. Members of the House may not be aware that, in fact, these protectors are charged and they are appearing in the court of law. So as we speak, they are due to appear in court again. So any engagements with any of the parties to the case could be prejudicial to them. So my approach is that let's allow the courts to complete their work. I must, however, Deputy Speaker, reiterate that our country is committed to the rule of law which is a cornerstone of our democratic constitutional order. I must also reiterate that I personally am against police brutality, including any form of violence directed to members of our communities. Violence against members of the community, especially by those entrusted with upholding the law, is unacceptable and contrary to our values. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition. Order, honourable members. Order.
I need protection. Please protect our speaker, deputy.
Order, honourable members.
Please protect him.
Yes, I am busy doing that. Honourable member, please proceed.
I need protection, honorable speaker, from. No, thank you very much, honorable speaker. Through you, Deputy President, obviously from what you are saying, you have not studied the verdict from the SAPS disciplinary process. The issue here is we think you ought to try to understand why such a brutal act, as captured on video, would escape responsibility by the said officers. But more importantly, where human rights are being violated in your name, where people are saying they are protecting the deputy president and they use excessive force against unarmed people in order to protect you. And would you in future, once you have, once this process has completed its course, take time to make sure that there is counseling and make sure that nobody in future violates individual human rights in your name?
The Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, I've not studied the verdict as yet. My attitude was to allow all the processes to be concluded. As I said, the matter is before the courts. And yes, I think once that process is over, we'll definitely look at it. But I must confirm to the House that I will never condone any brutality. So to the extent that we need to cancel anybody or take action, that is something that will be considered. But I was saying, let's allow the process to conclude. Because you see, the problem with a process when people are in court, once you start engaging or saying things, it could be prejudicial to them, both sides. You know, you don't want people, when they go to court, they say, but the deputy president said this about me or about this one. I think let's allow it to conclude. Our time will come to intervene. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Klute.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Is South African Police Service prepared to make available the record of the internal investigation, decisions, and reasons for acquittal, given that the Deputy President, this matter is about the operational and administrative affairs of the South African Police Service? What measures at policy level will the Deputy President engage with the Minister of Police on ensuring the professionalization of the subs to ensure that as the South African Police Service enforces the law, there is adherence to the prescribed of the law and the rights of the accused persons? Thank you, Deputy President.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Klute. My approach is that we should allow the process to conclude. Obviously, justice must be done. I think if we go into it now, it may interfere with fair processes that, and it's both for the accused and the victim. I think let's allow the courts who are very capable to deal with this matter. Then our time will come to say, what do we do going forward to ensure that there is no repeat of incidents like this, etc. The police are enforcing the law and so on. I think that judgment will help us to build a way forward. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Cameron.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, given that the court has accepted the integrity of the video evidence of the said incident, which your VIP Protectors legal team did not challenge this week in court, how do you explain SAPS's internal disciplinary process acquitting the same members by rejecting this evidence? What action will your office take to address this glaring contradiction between internal accountability and open court proceedings, particularly where public trust and the abuse of state power are concerned? I thank you.
The Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Cameron. Let's wait for the courts to complete their work. Let's wait for the courts to complete their work. Then our time will come to say, what do we do next? Thank you, Honorable
Deputy President, there is a point of order. Please take your seat.
Yeah.
Honourable Member, your point of order.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, we've raised this issue before, that it's important for questions that are posed by members to be answered. And this particular question has been put to the Deputy President, and the question hasn't been answered. It has nothing to do with the courts. It's a completely different process. And I think it's fair for the Deputy President just to put those answers to the members when they ask the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We have made rulings before in the House that the presiding officers cannot adjudicate whether a question has been fully answered or not. So we will proceed on that basis. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ghana.
Nakenza Mtramashkul. Shandlasha President. Maybe let me ask a question that will not have an answer that let's wait for the court. To say you are the chairperson of the JCPS cluster. And there's the presidential protection and the VIP might very well appear or discuss it. So what I want to know is whether as the chairperson of the JCPS cluster, you have discussed the conduct or the behavior of the presidential protection services and the VIP protection when they are transporting ministers, deputy president, or the president on the road to ensure that the South Africans that are road users, they don't feel threatened by the VIP protectors and the protectors that are transporting the president.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Tatangana Kensa. We will deal with that matter effectively in the near future so that we don't prejudice anybody. Ntaisamula kahle ayitsikeni swela laya a court. Lo seswerila court we itasamula kahle nje kore iya kanjani amahlweni. Animi chabeli Narco. Sutahela laya ibuyal. Okay, inkom. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
That concludes questions to the Deputy President. I thank the Honourable Deputy President. I request members to stand. Honourable Cameron, we've already concluded. You're now raising your hand.
Point of order.
Please proceed. What is your point of order?
Point of order.
Yes, please proceed.
Speaker, Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. I refer to Rule 32, which refers to the leader of the opposition. And as you know, it says that the leader of the largest opposition party in the assembly. Now, on the order paper today, we had the leader of the opposition of the MKP who was supposed to ask the question. There was no apology when Honorable Gama stood up and said that. So I would just like to know, is Mr. Hlophe, Honorable Hlophe, still the leader of the opposition for the MKP, or is there a change?
Point of order, please rise. The House is now adjourned.
Order, order.
Order.